let's take a look at how to create frequency tables. The graph below shows how many different hobbies each student in Landon's class has. Use the graph provided to complete the frequency chart below. Okay, well, we can see that the number of hobbies counted, right, either 10 to 14, 15 to 19, 20 to 24, 25 to 29, or 30 to 34. Okay, well, the ones in the X column of our table are on the X-axis of our chart. The number of students that gave that reply is in the Y column of our table and on the Y-axis. So it's always helpful to take a moment to look at your chart and figure out where everything is. So notice they gave us both columns filled in for everything except for 10 to 14. So I want to figure out how many students answered that they have 10 to 14 hobbies. Okay, well, if we look at this first bar in our chart, that's where it says 10 to 14 hobbies. Now notice that the top of this bar would land halfway between 0 and 2. So if they were going by twos, it's helpful if we fill in the missing numbers. Well, halfway in between 0 and 2 would be 1. And you could even do that for the whole chart. You can see that it follows the pattern, right? 0, 1, 2. This would be 3, 4. Halfway between here would be 5, 6. Halfway in between 7 and 8, because they're going by twos. So if it lines up to the top of 1, that means one student gave that answer. Landon is a researcher who is looking into shoe size of Canadians. Use the graph provided to complete the frequency chart below. Okay, and just like the last time, we can see that the size, the range of those answers between 40 and 59, 60 and 79, and so on, is on the X-axis and the X column of our table, and the frequency, or how many people gave that answer, is in the Y column and the Y-axis. And this time on the Y-axis, notice they're going by ones, right? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, well, they told us for 40 to 59, it's a frequency of 1. We can see that from our table. From 60 to 79, frequency is 6. So you can see where they're getting these answers from. 80 to 99, 5. If I read across, the top of that bar is right at 5. Another 5 here. Well, the top of this bar, if I read across, is also right at 5. So I need to fill in for this last bar how many people answered between 120 and 139. Well, notice the top of this bar, if you read it across to the Y-axis, is right at 3. So its value or frequency is 3. A high school basketball coach counted the number of points her team scored each game. Use the data in the histogram to complete the frequency chart below. Okay, well, again, notice for 10 to 19 points, the answer was one person, right? The top of that bar is right at 1. For 20 to 29, they told us 7 people. Okay, well, that makes sense. The top of our bar is right at 7. We want to fill in for the number of points 30 to 39, how many people on the team scored. Okay, well, let's take a look. 30 to 39 is our bar right here. And you can see that the top of the bar, if I read across to the Y-axis, is right at the value of 4. So that means 4 people on the team scored those points. Ryan makes the following graph on how many children are in all of his friends' families. Use the data collected to complete the frequency chart below. Okay, well, the first one they told us, for the value of 25 to 29 children came up once. Okay, well, we can see that for 25 to 29, it was right at 1. We want to fill in the next value. For 30 to 34 children, how frequently did that answer come up? Okay, well, 30 to 34 is right here. So if we look at the top of that bar in our bar chart and we read across to the Y-axis, we can see that that reaches up to a value of 5. So the frequency would be 5. Use the data provided to complete the frequency chart below on how many eggs different goose species lay. Okay, well, they filled in the first column. For 10 to 14 eggs, there was only one species. Okay, and we can see that here because for 10 to 14, that bar only reaches up to the 1. We want to fill in the missing value for 15 to 19 eggs, how many species? Okay, well, 15 to 19 eggs is the second bar right here. If we take a look at that second bar, it reaches up to this height, and if we read across, we can see that height corresponds to a value of 3. So there's 3 goose species that lay between 15 and 19 eggs. Okay, let's take a look at this time. And notice this time, for our frequency table, instead of reading it from a bar graph, we're reading it from a line graph. But the idea is very similar. Natalie researches the group size of macaque monkeys in Japan. Use the data in the line graph to complete the frequency chart below. Okay, so notice for a group size of 0, there were 3 groups. Okay, well, a group size of 0 corresponds here, and we can see that that point is plotted at 0, 3, right? The y coordinate, it's up at 3. 1, 4. Okay, well, at 1, if you go straight up, and so notice I'm looking straight up from the x-axis, right? 0, 3, so straight up from 0, that would be the point 0, 3. For 1, 4, okay, well, my x value is 1, and then reading right up to my y value, I can see that that reads across to 4. Right, so we're looking at these as being ordered pairs in the form x, y. Remember, the x coordinate tells you how far that point is left or right. In this case, it's all positive, so right. And the y coordinate tells you how far the point is down or up. Since they're all positive, that would all be up. Okay, for 2, 0, well, notice that's 2 to the right and 0 up or down. Our point is right here. And so we want to figure out for this next point. So let's clear some of this off so you can see. We're looking specifically when the x value is 3. So at an x value of 3, I'm going to read up until I find that point. That point is right here. It's right above my x coordinate of 3. So to figure out the y coordinate, or how many groups, I'm going to read straight across to the y axis. And I can see that that lands right at 3. So there were 3 groups that had a group size of 3. Okay, I have another line graph. So same thing as before, I'm going to look at each of these points as being an ordered pair in my table. So remember, the ordered pairs are x, y, and the first x value, in this case represents eggs, tells us how far we're moving to the right when we look at that point. And the second, or the y coordinate, tells us the number of species when we see how far it is up or down on the y-axis. Okay, and our question said, use the data in the line graph provided to complete the frequency chart below on how many eggs different goose species lay. All right, so they gave us the answers for the first few points, right? Notice the first point is at 0, 0, right? It's 0 to the right, 0 up or down. The next point is at 1, 1. Okay, and notice on the y-axis they're going by 2s. So if this is exactly halfway between 0 and 2, that would be at 1. The next point, 2 to the right and 2 up, so 2, 2. My next point is 3 to the right and 9 up. Notice it lands halfway between 8 and 10, so that would be at 9. And I want to fill in for this final point way up here. Notice this point is directly above 4 on my x-axis. So my x value is 4, and to figure out my y value, I'm going to read straight across to the y-axis. And I can see that it's right at a value of 10. So the point is 4, 10.